Okay. So it is recording, and it was, and then I turned it off, and now it is again. Okay. So some of the different ways that you identify plants is by their leaves. Now, in the evergreen trees, the needles are their leaves, and we'll get to those in just a second. So, different ways to tell about different plants' leaves are by their shape. And we kind of hit on this a little bit right before the last test that we took. But we have different leaf margins. So this first leaf margin is a smooth margin. That's called an entire. That leaf margin is entire. This one is, gotta make sure I have my terminology right, is undulate. So if you look at this and you're told that it's an undulate leaf margin, Alex, how can you describe an undulate leaf margin to somebody?
It looks like a, I don't know, I would say Christmas tree type leaf.
Okay, so the leaf shape is the Christmas tree type, but if you look at the margins, the outside edges of it, it looks kind of wavy.
Yeah.
Okay, so this third one here is serrated. So, Maria, how would you describe a serrated leaf margin?
Is it like rough on the outside?
Rough on the outside, so it looks like little teeth.
Yeah.
So a serrated leaf margin looks like it has teeth. Okay? Now,
Wait, hold on. What was
Yeah.
the entire thing? How it,
entire, it's just smooth.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Just smooth. Entire is smooth. And then undulate is kind of wavy. Serrated, kind of like little knife teeth or little saw teeth around the outside edges.
Or it's like like mountains.
Yeah.
Or like a serrated knife.
Like a serrated knife, like a steak knife. Okay. Now this leaf margin is called lobed. So, Kendra, how would you describe a lobed leaf margin?
Like, so the leaves, they kind of like, they curve and then they start another curve, basically.
So they each little parts of the leaf have little lobes, so kind of like your earlobe.
Like waves under.
Okay.
And what was that one called?
Lobed.
Like low.
Like your earlobe.
Yeah, earlobe. Okay. Okay. Now, leaf shape is another way that you tell about a leaf. So,
That looks like a toothpick.
okay, so it is linear. Okay, so it's just a small kind of sliver linear leaf. So, can you, who can give me an example of a linear leaf, Alex?
Toothpick? Like, oh, it looks like a
Can-
toothpick.
Okay, so it kind of looks like a toothpick, but so another way to describe a linear, so if you think, how many of you guys know what a Russian olive tree is? Okay, that is a linear leaf. So it's kind of the same shape all the way across and just real narrow.
I know the thorn tongue that was growing to branches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
What was the second shape on the top? Like the
Letter
pattern?
this one?
Margin? Yeah.
Undulated, so it's kind of wavy. That is spelled Undulate.
Go again.
Undulate. Okay. Now, what does this leaf shape remind anybody of? This one here, G.
An arrow.
Okay, arrow. A spear tip. Okay, so that's actually that leaf shape is called lanceolate. So it looks like a lance, like the tip of a lance. Okay, and then this one,
That looks like a drop.
teardrop. Okay, so a drop of water, but this is called ovate. So it's kind of almost like an oval type shape. Now, we're not going to talk about these two, but this one is called obate, and this is obovate. So they kind of look like an oboe, but we're not going to discuss those, but they're just part of this picture. But so these are the leaf shapes, these are the leaf margins. Okay. Now, when I put these on the board last week, of course, my artistry wasn't all that fantastic. That's why I decided to project the leaf patterns here. So you have here, this leaf pattern here is alternate. And Kevin's not here today, but he described it pretty good, that if you take your arms and do this with them, and you're folding the branch in half, that alternate, they won't hit. Okay? Now this one, the next one over, is called opposite. And if you fold that branch in half, they'll hit. Okay? And then this is bracate. Okay? So it kind of looks like pine cone shaped, I think. What was it you, Danica, that described it as kind of pine cone-ish? Yeah.
It looks kind of like the top of a pineapple too, like an unripe
Like an
pineapple.
artichoke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that
Is that what an artichoke is? 'Cause isn't it like a plant?
it is, an artichoke is a plant, and I don't. It's kind of bracate, and that's kind of like a pineapple, has the brackets too.
Why
Now
is
this,
it called the heart of an artichoke?
because it's the middle, I guess. I don't know anything about artichokes, Chris. Sorry. Okay, this last one is called whorled, and so that means that the leaves are, each set of leaves go all the way around. So there's at each point as it moves up the plant. Whorled. W-H-O-R-L-E-D. Whorled. Okay. Now, so when I asked you guys about this, you guys just all said it was pine trees, right?
Yeah.
So the best way to identify a pine tree is you basically shake its hand. Okay? So we're going to take this, okay? Just grab it and describe to me what it's like.
Just like.
Go ahead. Shake its hand, Miguel. What's it?
Spiky.
Spiky. Okay, that's a good descriptive word. Alex?
Needles.
Okay, needles.
Sharp.
Sharp, that's a good descriptive word for it.
Hard, brushy.
Brushy. Okay, so this is actually, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little piece off right here and keep it up here, and I'm going to give you guys a piece of the branch. Take off a couple of the needles from that branch and pass it down. Just pull some of the needles off of it, and we're going to be able to identify.
Does it matter?
Yeah, just pull just a few of the needles off and pass it down. Okay. So when you get some of a couple of the needles pulled off, just take it and roll it in your finger.
This one can
Not
roll.
perfectly round.
Okay, not perfectly round,
It would
It's
be
like a square.
like a square. It's actually that's called squareose. So yeah, that's kind of square. And if you were to look at it, if you look at it really closely, you can see that it's got,
Little square.
yeah, it's a little square. Okay.
blue.
So Miguel described it as pokey, and
it to stop.
Trayson described
That's just spiky.
spiky, not pokey. I said
Yeah.
pokey. Spiky. So Miguel said spiky, and Trayson said sharp. So the best way to remember this is it's sharp, square, sharp, square, spruce. sharp,
Well, I'm just
Sharp.
saying, man, like, if someone asks me what type of tree this is, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna be that kind of type of guy. It's like, it's in the carry of this kingdom.
It's a spiky tree.
I'm just gonna say it's a pine tree.
Isn't this the blue spruce?
And if they ask more details, then I'll explain it.
this is actually from the blue spruce that's at my house. So that's how you remember. So a spruce actually isn't a pine tree. A spruce is a spruce tree. So
Another way you can try to
Sharp.
looking at the wood, right?
sharp, square, spruce. Okay?
The color.
Now, this one,
Is a
so this one is actually from a pine tree. Okay.
I'll bring you some pine needles, more pine stuff.
Now,
Which I've been like my entire life.
Yeah.
let me go. Here's. So, if you look at these, and I'm pulling it off right as close to the base as I can because pine trees clump together. Their needles clump together
Come in pairs.
in not just in pairs. This one is in pairs, but threes, fours, fives. You can actually have them 5 to a bracket.
Oh shoot.
Okay, so if you look at a evergreen tree and you see that the needles are clumped together in groups. Here, Danica, will you?
Relating SpongeBob to the situation. Oh, bro, it goes right back. It's like they were in prison.
I got it.
Here, Gerardo. Put that away, please. Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, so a pine tree,
I shoved one needle down each of my nostrils.
a pine tree that their needles grow out in bunches. So this is actually from a ponderosa pine, and the ponderosa pine, their needles are usually between 3 and 5 inches long. Okay,
But they can get longer if they want to.
5 inches is about normal for what we have. Okay, here, Henry.
Oh wait, how do you?
Okay,
If I don't smell that much piney, you're quite alright.
there you go. So now so I told you that that to identify your evergreen trees, that you identify it by shaking their hand. So if you go up to a pine tree and okay, so it's not real sharp,
Yeah, but
spiky,
if I were to fall 100 feet, I wouldn't want to fall on a pile of them.
probably not. But so they're not very sharp, but they grow out in bunches of 2, 3, 5. That's your pine trees. Now, with the spruce tree, the sharp, square spruce, if you take a fir tree,
What fell out of this now?
a fir tree, its needles aren't sharp like this. So if you go and you give a fir tree a hug, it's not going to be sharp.
It's that one?
No, this is actually from a different blue spruce at my house. I actually had a hard time finding a fir tree, but the fir tree is not sharp and the needles are flat. So if you take one of the needles and rub it in your fingers like this, you'll notice that it doesn't really roll. So the pine tree doesn't really roll either. But the pine tree, that their needles are in bunches. But a fir tree, you can remember it by flat, friendly fir. So the needle is flat, so it doesn't roll in your fingers. It's friendly because it's not sharp, doesn't poke you, and that makes it a fir tree. So flat, friendly fir. What was it for the spruce tree?
Sharp square.
Sharp, square spruce.
And that was for the what tree?
Chris,
Yeah.
the spruce tree. Okay,
We want to sneeze.
please stop.
Okay. This is the last one of these I'm gonna do it with.
Okay, yes.
So there are three pines, right?
So pine tree is kind of a general term for evergreen trees, but they're different because they're not
Yeah, I know.
a pine
But
tree.
why do we call it pines, pine trees and not call it like the name of their leaves? Like, oh, this is the pine sharp tree, and this is the pine something like the leaf name.
So why do we call them all pine trees instead of that's a spruce tree and that's a, so actually, so if you look out the window right there, you can see several evergreen trees out there, right? So can you tell from here what kind of evergreen tree it is?
Some sort of.
No, you have to actually go up to it and be able to see it and identify it. So, but when you get closer to it, you can actually see that it is what it is, whether it's a fir tree or a spruce tree. Preston, you can wait. Okay. Chris, take that out of your nose now.
I think it would hurt to take out.
I'll wait.
Okay, how about you go out in the hall then?
But I like it.
You're being disruptive. Go out in the hall.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Take it out.
No one's noticed.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So on this ponderosa pine branch that I have, I want you to look at this top piece right here.
That's where pine cones develop and they spread their seeds.
This isn't where pine cones. This isn't where the pine cones
It's
are.
not a pine cone.
No.
What is it?
So
What are these?
Chris, I think you got it, bud.
You icing those.
okay.
Are these the ones that grow really big?
They can grow really big pine cones. So, but these don't develop into pine cones. So yeah,
Mr. W.
Then where's the pine cones come from?
yes. Huh?
Where does the pine cones come from?
Well, okay. So if you look right here, this is the hard rack part of it.
And at the end of every one of those is
Okay. So if you look at this branch, okay, you can see two different structures. You see these little worm-like structures right here?
with sap on them.
No, they didn't have sap on them. And then there's this hard-looking structure right here at the end. This is where a pine cone was forming. So
Like the brown part, like the light brown part?
yeah, let me.
Let the little seeds grow, and then under it.
Okay, so right here at the very tip of this,
Yeah, what's
so
that?
that's the hard. That's where a cone was forming. But this, see these little worm-like structures right here. Okay, so how do plants?
I see those all over the place, and I always think that they're little tiny caterpillars.
So this is actually.
Right.
So how do plants fertilize? Fertilize each other. So
Something like pin,
They connect the vines,
tiny.
the tips of their vines.
okay, so the pollen goes from the male portion.
That's not even like.
Oh.
Pollen goes from the male portion
I just broke
to
this and
the
it
cone.
smells. I broke it.
Okay, so the little worm-like structures at the very end, is where the pollen comes from. So, because this tree isn't pollinating anymore, the pollen is blown off of this tree. That's why it's just kind of dust. Okay, so, but this little worm-like structure is where the pollen would come from, and then at the end you can see where the pine cone, which is the female part, would receive the pollen to pollinate and propagate the tree. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to put up here on the board one other leaf type, because it's about a plant that we talked about, and I want to ask you about it.
Just like what is appropriate.
No. Okay. So this is a plant that we talked about last week. Who remembers what this plant is? Gerardo, do you remember? Goat head? It's not cilantro. Okay. Okay, so goat head is one term. What is the actual name of it?
I can't remember that.
I hate goat head.
Okay. So someone this morning hurt. They do, but they're.
You ever like
Chris, hey, up here. Up here. So this, okay. So how many leaves is right here?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay, Preston guesses 12. Looks kind of counting. How many leaves? Right here.
Well, if there's 2 on this side.
2, 4, 6.
Right here.
32.
2, 4, 6, 8,
Oh, and just one side?
12. Pull on this one, pull on that, it's 24.
Oh, I thought you were talking about across the whole vine.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
I
guessing
can't even see that
36.
far.
24.
Green to me.
Okay.
14 times
2.
3.
Oh, duh. 2 leaves.
Because
Yeah.
because no, well, because the reason. Okay, so the reason is because this is called a compound leaf. Okay, so the entire leaf structure.
You gotta torture it.
Okay, this right here, that is one leaf. What's circled in red, that's one leaf.
Oh, what about
Even though it has all the little
baby leaves?
Subleaves.
so this is called a compound leaf.
It's like that.
And then it has the
that
little-
line, and then like the little things like you there of the What?
It has nothing to do with it. Okay, so a compound leaf looks like it has a bunch of leaves, but it's actually, that's all one leaf. Okay. So how do you tell the difference between a compound leaf and an actual leaf?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't, I feel like I've heard this before, compound leaves are on vines, right?
Okay. So with puncture vine,
I ripped my needles, bro.
so with puncture vine, yeah. So compound leaves are generally found on vines.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yo, I was lying when I said I heard that somewhere. I was just guessing.
Okay. So going to go back to this one really quick.
He's having a seizure.
He has a tractor on himself.
Oh, it's not having
They
a
implanted it
seizure.
in his blood.
No, he's wearing it on his neck.
No. Listen here,
Yeah, exactly.
Melinda.
Who the hell's Melinda?
Melinda. Why'd you say it with the U? Melinda.
It was Melinda.
Melinda.
Okay.
Blonde girl?
Take it off.
No, it's not who was pointed at.
Well, that you're just gonna.
Hey, you want to buy some house in Florida?
I was